Okay, time for a May cancer update. So, in the last two of my scans, the ones prior to the May scan, there were visible new growths. This was really bizarre because my blood work showed good numbers. So, let's start with some of the background on the blood work. So, there's a test that they can perform. When I was first diagnosed, there were some visible growths in a CAT scan that I had for something else. We thought I had a hernia or something. I think that's what it was. We thought, we don't know what it is, and ran some blood tests, and this CEA blood test came up positive. CEA stands for carcinogenic embryonic antigens, and my understanding of it is that it basically means that there are these antigens that the body puts out when there's cancer activity, and that those can be detected in the blood, and that they can be correlated to cancer presence or tumor growth. And I think the maximum acceptable value for a carcinogenic embryonic antigen test, or CEA, is like 4.7. And my initial result was 40. And in fact, because I live in the best country in the world and my employer had just changed insurance and I was diagnosed in November, we had to wait to start treatment until January on my stage 4 cancer for the new insurance to kick in order to prevent having to re-diagnose and various nonsense. But in any case, it was 40, and a month later it was 50. 6 weeks into chemotherapy treatment on the clinical trial that I was on, my CEA went from 50 to 14. So good sign. And that's kind of how CEA works. The value itself is not important. The trend is what matters. And as a side note, it's not diagnostic for everybody. There are people who have tons of cancer and a perfectly normal CEA score. But generally speaking, if it's diagnostic for you, like it is for me, then it generally continues to be. So when my cancer was shrinking, my CEA was shrinking, and when my cancer was growing, my CEA was growing. So it was useful, and we could keep an eye on that as a bellwether of what was to come. Anyway, after surgery and my journey to NED, or no evidence of detectable metastatic disease, the blood test results were normal for all of the carcinogenic antigen tests that we do, and we started doing these Signatera tests. And the Signatera test tests for circulating tumor DNA. It's a super expensive, very high fidelity. Like it finds the tiniest bit, and honestly, like the 6 rounds of testing after my surgery and my NED status, my Signatera was 0.0, and my other antigen scores were perfect. About a year later, my antigen numbers were still fine. My Signatera results became positive. I had like a 0.17, or I don't remember the actual number, but it was a less than 1 number, and I actually thought it was worse than it was, because I thought it was like a probability number. I thought it was like, this is the odds that you have cancer, and 1 is there's cancer, and 0.17 is a lot bigger than 0. But it turns out that wasn't the case. It is a low value, which means there's active cancer, but not a lot. So fast forward to 2 scans ago, or 3 scans ago technically, which would be 9 months ago. There was stuff. We did a CT scan with contrast, and there were 4 new spots visible. 3 or 4. There was 1 in the liver, 1 in my right hip bone, and 1 in my chest somewhere, and I don't remember where the 4th one was, but it was all sort of abdominal, chest cavity, and hip bone. So we kind of expected bad news. The weird thing about that was that my antigen numbers actually went down in those 2 scans. The 3 scans ago and 2 scans ago all confirmed there were visible signs of cancer. And in fact, the scan prior to this May scan was a PET scan where you have to drink this horrible, disgusting semen that is radioactive sugar that binds to hyper metabolic activity, which is, my understanding at the time, was guaranteed cancer. Like, the only thing that can light up on a PET scan is cancer. And we did a PET scan, the prior scan 6 months ago, and it lit up. All those spots lit up like a Christmas tree. So prior to doing each scan, I get a new Signatera test, and the Signatera test prior to this May scan spiked. Not a lot, like 0.6, it was 0.3 or something, but I mean, that's double. So I kind of expected bad news going into the May scan. It seemed pretty sub-ideal, and kind of thought I was going to hear, yeah, your cancer grew and you're going to have to go back into treatment, and I wasn't super looking forward to that. So I went in, had 2 MRIs, because we needed to do an MRI of my right hip, my right hip bone for the spot that was there, and then we had to do an abdominal MRI. And MRIs takes about 30 minutes. So the fact that we had to do 2, I spent an hour in the machine. And that was fine. An hour in the machine was okay. The MRI is fine. It's kind of loud, but they let you listen to music, and I just kind of chilled for an hour while they pumped contrast into my blood and did 2 high-definition MRIs on those areas. Follow-up sit-down with Gold, my oncologist, who is amazing, and he just walks in and says, nope, everything's fine. All of those spots were just inflammation. And I asked him, but, how come they lit up on the PET scan? And apparently, and I didn't know this, PET scans can light up inflammation in addition to cancer. When I was talking about this with a friend who's a nurse practitioner who herself has gone through cancer, she said I shouldn't despair too much. And I mean, I don't despair. I don't get scanxiety and don't freak out about this stuff. See previous video about dissociation. But she said, imaging isn't everything, which I didn't understand. How could imaging not be everything? Literally, it's all about, like, when we see something, we're going to treat it. And if we don't see anything, then we're going to keep trucking. But turns out she was right, and the imaging wasn't everything, and those spots were all just inflammation. So I asked Gold, well, does that mean that I'm clear again? And he said, well, no, the Signatera is still positive. It's extremely low. He said it's a vanishingly low Signatera, 0.06, or no, 0.6 is nothing. He said, I've got patients that have a Signatera of 111,000, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. So he said, I have no visible evidence of metastatic disease, but that I have extremely vanishingly low Signatera value, which guarantees I have active cancer and is a bellwether of a recurrence. We just don't know when or how much or how bad. He said he's not interested in putting me into chemotherapy unless he absolutely has to, and he's hoping any recurrence will be treatable non-surgically through, outpatient ablation or whatever we got to do, but that for now I should just enjoy my summer, and we'll keep doing this nonsense every 3 months and keep scanning and looking and see how it goes. So I'm going to do exactly that, and fingers crossed I get enough time to see my boys grow up, or at least get Ben to deploy to adulthood. He's 14. The odds of me seeing 2026 are still 15%, so the odds of me seeing him graduate in 2029 are vanishingly small. I'm going to keep on hoping and keep on trucking and live my life scan to scan and make the best of it with the boys that I can. So anyway, thanks to everybody for all your support and your attention, and I'll let you know how the next scan goes.